Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It's James Tiernan here at Keller Williams North Shore West here in the Tiernan Group Studios. And I've got a special guest today, my good friend Milton, all the way from Miami.
Hey, guys.
Milton, welcome. So, how's things in Miami today?
Awesome. I'll be honest with you. It's a beautiful day. The sun's out. It's not too hot, not too cold. And I'm going to go to the beach after this. Uh, it's a pretty
It's
nice life.
February here in Chicago, right?
Yeah, it's better than the cold.
A little bit, a little bit. So, I just want to touch base and see what's going on in Miami. What are you seeing in the Miami market right now?
Well, inventory is still at an all-time low. It's a seller's market with single-family, multifamily, and even in condos, even with all the construction that they're doing. My office is located in Brickell, which is the financial epicenter of Miami. It's basically where most business takes place. We're
Right
right at the
here?
heart, right there at the bottom tip of the peninsula, and we've seen our population here in Brickell basically triple in the last 2 years. We have a new transplant from Chicago, Citadel, one of the largest hedge funds in the world, is relocating to 830 Brickell, right down the block from my office, and we've really felt that impact. As a lot of
Really?
the people that are moving to Miami are people with money. It's six and seven and eight figure people are moving, and unfortunately, they're forcing out some of the natives. And that's one thing I've told people that have lived and worked in Miami ever since I started my career in real estate was that if you live and work here, you need to own real estate because you're going to get pushed out. Rents were cheap. They were very cheap. They were very inexpensive. But now with this influx of new residents, rents have doubled. Prices have gone up. I know inflation is real, but I think that Miami in general was artificially inexpensive in the past because we didn't have as many jobs. Remote work has
Uh,
changed everything.
sure.
And then tech has come, crypto. A lot of companies are really just, realizing if you got to get people back to the office, it may as well be nice and sunny out, and they're moving their offices here.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about having snow days down in Miami.
Right, right. I think our power grid here is pretty strong because everybody has the air conditioners on, but we don't have rolling blackouts like they do in a lot of other states. We're pretty weatherized.
Yeah, and you guys can handle a hurricane the right way,
Yeah.
right?
The building codes in South Florida, the greater Miami, Palm Beach down, is some of the tightest, the toughest building codes in the United States. And so when you see a lot of destruction, that doesn't really happen here in South Florida because all of our properties are CBS, cement, cinder block, reinforced, double strapped roofs, hurricane impact windows, doors, shutters. We can take a hit.
That's good to know. That's really good to know for people thinking about moving down there. So, who are the people you're seeing moving down to Miami? Anybody in particular? I mean, I know we talk a lot about people from New York and Chicago moving to Florida.
Yeah, New York, Chicago, California, Silicon Valley specifically, and a tremendous amount of foreign national buyers that
Okay.
are buying investment properties here. One thing I always say is anytime something goes wrong in South America or any other countries down there in South America, there is a huge flight of wealth into the United States and specifically Miami. And that is the case. I think South America, Central America, the rest of the world, because of COVID restrictions, lockdowns, and inflation that's been caused after that, because of the political unrest in a lot of these countries, you have a tremendous amount of wealth coming to Miami, and they're buying up a lot of investment properties. They're looking for
So,
cash flow,
so you
American
really see a
dollar.
lot of international people coming.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Wow.
yeah, huge influx. So you think inflation is bad here?
Oh,
Compare
sure.
that to what's happening in Colombia, where in the newspaper it said 12.5% inflation. That's what they admitted. So it's double.
Yeah. Okay. And so we see a lot of people coming. Um, who are your sellers? Who are the people that are selling? So does that mean people are leaving Miami?
Yeah, there are people that are leaving Miami because it used to be slow beach town and now it's a hustle and bustle. And so you have people that have been here for 30, 40, 50 years, selling their homes and moving north. We have a lot of transplants that move here or have moved here over the last 20 years, right? A lot of people from New York, they move
Uh-huh.
to Miami, and then they move halfway back to North Carolina. Those are the halfbacks.
Oh,
So
okay.
they move from the north, they move south, and then progressively they move a little bit further north. You have people from Miami that move to Tampa, to Ocala, to Sarasota. They go up into the northern part of the state or the central part of the state because they get a little bit more of the seasons, right? Like
Okay.
we don't really experience a spring or a fall. It's summer. It's
It's
just always
all
summer.
the time in summer?
Yeah, it's always summer. So, the coldest it'll get here is maybe 45 degrees one day.
Oh
50,
gosh.
50 degrees. Yeah, it's shorts weather in Chicago. So you have a lot of those folks that are moving out and moving a little bit north. Those are my best sellers because if I have somebody that says, "Well, I want to sell my property in Miami and I want to buy another property in Miami," unless you're an empty nester going into something smaller, it will be hard for you to move up without having to pay more. You're not going to have an even trade.
Okay.
And that's why the best sellers for me are people that are moving away or moving into something smaller, from a house into a condo. Because if they want something bigger, it's going to cost you. Because South Florida in general does not have a lot of buildable land.
Okay.
And so,
A lot
unlike
of
what you see,
wetlands.
a lot of wetlands. It's a paradise, but mostly it's a swamp.
I
Yeah.
didn't want to say that word, but sure. Yeah, you can say it.
Yeah, that's okay. We have nice alligators.
You got
Um,
gators, right?
Yeah, plenty. Yeah, more gators than people. If you look at the South Florida map, you'll notice that most of it on that western side, and especially towards the south, is all green. That's the Everglades.
Let's
Yeah,
take
you
a
see
look.
all that green?
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, so look how little land mass we really have to build on. So you don't have a lot of new construction starts that aren't building up. You have condos. You have some single family homes down about 45 minutes southwest of the city in Homestead, but for the most part you got to knock something down to build. And that's why property values here have kept their value and are expected to climb 3 to 5%, where you see major drops in the southwest of the United States because they built a lot of homes. They had land to build and they overbuilt. Not really overbuilt. They just built a lot all at once. And you see some property values drop there, maybe 5%, maybe 10%, which, if it's gone up 45% in the last 2 years, it's 10% drops nothing.
Yeah, we've seen so many differences across the country. Everybody thinks there's going to be a market crash,
Yeah.
and you and I both know there's not because there's a overwhelming demand for buyers in our areas, right?
Yeah.
And people look at and they talk about national news, but we're really talking about what's happening locally. So in
100%.
Miami, there's obviously a huge demand, and that's driving prices up in spite of interest rates.
Yeah, very much so in spite of it, because we have a lot of cash buyers here. If you think about those foreign national investors, 90% of them are buying cash.
Sure, that makes sense.
And so what I've told people in the past is that 45% of almost all the sales in Miami most of the time are cash transactions, or
Wow,
predominantly
45%.
cash.
And what do those numbers look like? Are those like 500s? Those over a million?
Yeah, it's over a million. It's multi-millions. It's folks that maybe had a brownstone in Manhattan that they
Oh,
bought
well,
in the
sure.
90s that then sold it for $5 million. They come here and they spend $3 million on an estate cash,
Yeah,
right?
so you get a lot more than you do in New York.
Yeah, much more. Also, Florida is a homestead state. So if you were to take all of your net worth and put it into your real estate, that would be protected. The government can't take it from you. The city could put a lien on. You could have code violations left and right. Nobody can actually foreclose you except for your mortgage company. And so if you are Tiger Woods, for example, take $45 million and you put it into your estate in Palm Beach, and now you can take a loan out on that estate. You're not paying taxes on that money. So you still have
Right.
access to your capital, but it's secured and protected by homestead laws in Florida. Plus, no income tax.
Oh, no income tax, right.
Yeah.
And how's the property tax?
Property taxes are about 2%. I think the average in Florida is about 1.5. The way I calculate taxes is 2% of 75% of the value, because it's not a direct assessment to purchase price
Exactly.
taxation.
Yep.
And so 2% of 75% of the value is a pretty good measure. It's lower than Texas,
Okay.
but it's higher than a lot of other states.
Oh, so it is a little bit higher.
Yeah, well, Texas is, I think, 3%. We're at 2%. What's higher here is insurance.
Well,
And
sure, because of the hurricanes, right?
really because of the legislature, the state legislature, because they allow, it's a Republican-led legislature, they allow insurance companies to come into the state of Florida and pick and choose what they want to insure. If we forced all insurance companies, you insure everything or nothing, we would
Right.
have a lot more choice, and the price of our insurance would be lower. Because,
Okay.
like I said, our properties here are hard. They're hurricane ready.
Yeah.
They weren't in the 80s and in the 90s, but they updated the building code in 2002 and again in 2007. And so even the condos, they're all hurricane impact glass, high efficiency, like very solid structures that will not even feel the impact really of a direct hit of a hurricane. Now it's not hurricane proof, but
Sure. Nothing is.
it's
Right?
pretty prepared.
Sure.
And so if the state legislature, if Ron DeSantis decided this is something that he wanted to do, make insurance less expensive, we could force insurance companies here to cover everything or cover nothing. But instead, we have State Farm and all those large insurance companies like Geico come in and say, well, I'm only going to insure cars. That's the biggest profit for them, is actually automobiles.
Sure.
Homeowners insurance is some of the smallest profit margins. And so when you don't have too much choice, prices go up. And so
Sure.
I would say that if you lived in Georgia, you might spend $500 a year on homeowners insurance. In Miami, get prepared to spend $5,000.
$5,000 a year.
Yeah.
Now, is that for a single family home?
That's for a single family home. A condo with an HO6 policy, the HO6 policy might only be $1,200 a year, but the master policy, covered by the association, would cover the building. And then you have seen those increases in waterfront condos because of the insurance market.
Of course. Yep. Okay. So for the people that are moving to Miami, if anybody's thinking about moving to Miami from Chicago, what are the things that you want them to know that, people don't necessarily take into consideration?
Well, don't buy in a flood zone if you can avoid it, right?
Well, I mean, that's common sense, right?
You would think, but when you're looking for a home, people get wowed by the beauty of the property and they want to live close to the water. I'd say there are parts of Miami that are close to the water that aren't in a flood zone. Coconut Grove. Coconut Grove is 45 feet above sea level. Coral Gables, right? And so there are a lot of those options. And I would say that if you want to keep your cost under control and minimize the risk of ever having to really have an insurance claim, is avoid flood zones of all kinds. Unless if you're going to live on the water with a boat, that's one thing. I'll pay flood insurance, but I would avoid that if you're not getting those benefits.
Yeah. No, we have flood zones here too.
Yeah.
Because we have a lot of lakes and things like that. But nothing oceanfront, obviously.
Yeah, and I would look at older homes because typically the lot is larger and the quality of construction of an older home built in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, I think, is superior even to today. But in order to make sure you're not breaking the bank with insurance, you want to make sure that the electrical is updated, the plumbing and the roof and all those different things. But I would focus, if you're a new family and schools are important to you, then you need to make that very clear and upfront to the agent that you're working with, so that he or she can point you in the right direction, so that you can go to the public school systems that are rated higher. And that will typically be West. The reason why is because that was developed later. On the eastern side, it was developed earlier. And so the schools are older and have a lower rating for one reason or the other. So maybe that. But I'd say know what kind of lifestyle you want to lead.
Vertical living or single family homes, right?
How close do you want to be to the city and the nightlife or the beach? If you are looking for a slow-paced kind of life, you can still get that here in South Florida. We would just put you out west and a little bit towards Kendall or Weston, for example, in Broward County, up in Parkland. That's going to be 20, 30 minutes, sometimes 45 minutes to the beach, but it's a slower paced lifestyle, less traffic. Being closer to the east side, it's going to be a little bit more hustle and bustle, and traffic can be an issue only because Miami-Dade County was not a planned city in a planned county. It was a bunch of small villages and towns that grew up on top of each other and became Miami-Dade County. And so when people say, I live in Miami, Miami is tremendous because within Miami, you have Coconut Grove, Coral Gables,
let's take a
the
look.
Design District, Brickell, Little Havana, Little Haiti, you know.
So this is where your office is, and is this all considered Miami?
Yeah, besides Miami Beach, the rest of it is considered Miami.
Okay.
And so you have Hialeah right in the middle there. Hialeah is inside Miami-Dade County. When people say I live in Miami, they could mean Hialeah. They could mean Coral Gables. You know, it's Miami is like an all-encompassing term. And so I ask people, what neighborhood do you want to live in? Or what kind of lifestyle do you want? Because, well, I want to be close to shopping and not too far from the beach. Well, I say maybe you want to go to Midtown. You want to be near the Design District, right? Or I don't mind being a little bit further west. I want to be all-inclusive. I want to have access to shops, restaurants, and all that jazz, but not necessarily be in the city. Coral Gables, I'd say, is where you want to be at that point.
And you cover this whole area, right?
Yeah, I cover this whole area, and I have a team of agents that work with me as well, so we can divide and conquer. We cover Broward County and Miami-Dade.
Okay, that sounds great.
Yeah, and we speak multiple languages, which is really important here. If you're going to move to Miami, you might want to learn Spanish or Portuguese or Italian and French. One of the beautiful things about Miami that I'm really experiencing today is that it really is a melting pot. It is America. I was stuck in an elevator once with a Mexican couple. My clients were from Hong Kong. There was a guy from Michigan, a New Yorker, a person from Pakistan, and then me, a first-generation American, and my parents are from South America. And we're all in this elevator together, and it was just a beautiful thing. It was like the colors of Benetton.
Where are you from?
Born and raised in New York.
Okay.
I've been here since 1999, so...
we know about people moving from New York.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. We vibe well.
Okay. And then you said you're first generation, so where were your parents? Where'd they come from?
Ecuador and Peru.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And they met in New York. It's the American dream. Here I am.
They came here separately and they met in New York.
Yeah.
And then, they sold their brownstone and moved to Miami.
Not like that, but yeah.
So I know there's a lot. We talked a lot about like the industry that's there, and you talked about the big hedge fund that moved down there, and obviously University of Miami's there. But what else? What are the major employers in the area that are drawing people in, and are they hiring and transitioning people into the area?
Yeah, there is a lot of hiring going on right now. So Brickell, where I'm located, is the financial epicenter of Miami and really like an extension of South America. All their major banks are located here. Brickell has the highest number of banks outside of New York City. And so the financial sector is very big here.
Mm-hmm.
Hospitality is huge. All the cruise lines have offices here. And I have a lot of clients that have been relocated from all over the country that work in tech specifically for the cruise ships and the cruise lines, keeping all their software and their back end working, procurement and all that jazz.
So they don't have problems like Southwest, right?
No.
They don't have any tech at Southwest.
No. That was a doozy, huh? No, for the most part here we have a lot of international employers, international clients, a lot of consulates. Hospitality is huge, so basically the hotel conferences and whatnot. That was the number one major employer. It was construction, real estate, or hospitality, and now it's banking, it's tech, finance. Crypto is big here. We have a lot of that was one thing that our mayor did, and we had the FTX and the crypto bull. I don't think FTX is done or crypto is done either. That's another story. But
FTX might be done, but everybody else will be okay.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And I think FTX is done only because Binance kind of shut them down. They sold too many tokens to Binance, and then once their prices started dropping, Binance put them over by putting all their tokens for sale at the same time. And so I'm a crypto certified agent, and I was actually helping people take their crypto and buy real estate with it.
Wow.
It's one way to diversify your assets, right? But tech is huge here. A lot of startups and big tech, a lot of remote workers, and now we have Apple has an office here, Microsoft has an office here, WhatsApp has an office, Uber has an office here. A lot of the South American divisions of these companies are actually based in Miami.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. The South American versions. So
Yeah.
they're working in other countries, but they're basing out of Miami.
Yeah.
That's pretty
But
impressive.
Miami's a great hub. One of the things, like when I traveled to Las Vegas, when I saw you at the Elite Retreat,
Yeah.
it's longer for me to get to Vegas than it is for me to travel to Colombia, Peru, like most countries in South America. So this is a hub for many multinational corporations, especially those based in Central America and South America, and they use their base of operations here in Miami. It's a good launching pad.
No, absolutely. It sounds a lot more diverse than I realized.
Yeah.
When I think of Miami, I always Cuba, right? Because that's the closest point to Cuba and all that stuff that goes along with that.
Yeah, and the Cuban diaspora really changed Miami in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. It kind of gave it a really nice flavor and flair. And,
Sure.
and like a neighborhood just north of where I live in Shenandoah, just outside of Brickell, and it's north of Coconut Grove, but it's
Okay.
also south of Little Havana. And it's one of the most beautiful, most vibrant neighborhoods today is actually Little Havana. It's become a gastronomical capital, like the best Thai restaurant, the best Puerto Rican restaurant, the best anything restaurant is in Little Havana. And great live music, just the sounds, the scents, everything. It's really a sensory overload. It's a beautiful place.
Yeah, and I after talking with you, it made me really think that they laid the foundation for the rest of Central America to be welcome in Miami, and
They
be able to
did.
use that.
So my family moved from from New York to Miami, and one of the main reasons was because my parents missed home.
Okay.
And being in South Florida kind of gave them more of a sense of being. Like I improved my Spanish moving down here. Mi español no era tan bueno y ahora Dios aflojé la lengua y puedo hablar y dominar el idioma. So that's because of practice here in Miami. You have so much diversity.
It's
And
that immersion therapy,
it
right?
really is. My family had multiple generations in New York, and today I have more family in South Florida than in New York, because little by little they all started coming. First they thought my dad was crazy. What do you mean you're leaving New York? And now they all followed. Little by little they all followed suit, because it is a nice life.
Yeah.
You can work hard and you can really run circles around most people because everybody's on island time. So if you're from New York or Chicago or any of these major cities, you will
Sure.
really excel here because you're on time, you're punctual, you get your job done, you're focused, you're driven. A lot of people in South Florida, I'd say up until about 3 years ago, I would go to lunch. I would leave the office, I'd go to lunch, and I'd be like, does anybody around here work? Because everybody's like lounging and like, having a good time. Everybody's in gym clothes. Today, it's a much more serious city.
Sure.
You can hear people talking business, talking about their startup or their tech. It's really a different vibe. And it's like Brickell, it's even busy on a Wednesday night. Now you really feel the city has a bit of an energy to it. And it's kind of like my particular part of town, Brickell, is right now it's in the process of trying to figure out its identity. Because if you were 20 years ago, there weren't as many residential units here. And so it was mostly businesses. People wouldn't live here overnight. It was along the coast they would, but here in the city center, there really wasn't any residential. And then after Mary Brickell Village was put in, a couple of buildings went in around it, and then Brickell City Center came in, and all of this has kind of built up around it. It really like moved the city center from the coast to Brickell City Center. Now we're really kind of figuring out what's our vibe, what's our culture, because you have a lot of people from major cities, like when you're from Chicago, you know who you are. You know, when you're from
Yeah.
New York, you know who you are. And now, if you're from Brickell, if you're from Miami, if you're figuring this out, and it's going to be a nice blend of tropics and, like, ingenuity and hard work.
Yeah, it sounds like one of those cities like Las Vegas and maybe LA and San Francisco and or San Diego, where nobody's really from there. Everybody comes in from other places. I mean, there's always people from New York, even though New York is a huge melting pot.
Yeah.
But I think even though New York is called the melting pot, when people come to New York, they adopt New York, right? So it's like trying to figure out what your style is, what's your vibe, in a place that's somewhat newer. It doesn't have that certain, already established vibe.
Yeah. They call Miami the Magic City, and I agree with that term, because this is a place where people can really come and they can start over, or they can start fresh. They're
Yeah.
moving from a different state or from a different country, and they can really just make your life the way you want, because we have a lot of opportunity here. You can work slow, or you can work fast. You can work a lot, or you can take it easy and just hang out at the beach. There's a little something for everybody, but it's a great place to kind of restart, refresh, and begin anew. And that's what's happened with a lot of the foreign nationals that have made Miami their home. People that have moved to this country, the Cuban diaspora, right? The Haitians as well, and we have a lot of people from Argentina, and from all over of South America, because when they have to start over, and if the ones that can, they divest over there, they invest over here, and they really make Miami their home.
Yeah. And some people, hopefully not too many, they don't have a choice. They have to leave because of some tragedies, or a lot of people, Haiti, Dominican Republic had earthquakes,
Yeah.
things like that. But, hopefully it's people that are coming not just because they had trouble, but because they want a better life.
Well, like most immigrants, they come here to work and to
Sure.
and to really become American. And that's one of the things that I learned, because my parents came here, when they think they were in their late teens or early 20s. They met and got married, and then had these American kids, you know. And I learned from their example that people, you come here to work hard and to build your life. And I would say that, most of the immigrants that have come here and moved to Miami, whether you're an immigrant from New York that has come to Miami, everybody's come here to put down their flag and,
Yep.
and really leave their mark.
So, just to wrap it up, it sounds like it's been a great place to be. This has been a great conversation. So for the people that here in the Chicago area that are thinking about moving down there, what's the best way to get connected with you and start that conversation?
Well, definitely come visit my website, miltonassociates.com, or reach me out on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, etc. And my direct number, as listed below, 954-629-9952. I give my word to anybody that is coming to Miami and is not sure of where they want to be. We'll give you the full Miami tour and take you to all the different neighborhoods and give you some background in the history, and then the kind of lifestyle that you can expect in Miami or in Broward, Fort Lauderdale, so that you can kind of leave with a good picture of what we have to offer and where you think you would fit best.
This is really this couldn't have been a better time, because it's the middle of February. We're getting a little bit of weather right now, and if anybody's thought about moving, they're going to think about it a little bit harder after listening to us chat.
Yeah, yeah. And thanks for having me here. It's really been great.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. It's wonderful to hear about what's happening in other people's cities, because that's one of the ways to learn about what's going on around us and learn more about the real estate community.
Yeah,
Hey,
definitely.
Milton, thank you so much for your time today. I really do appreciate it. And if anybody's thinking about making that move down to Miami, give Milton a call. He'll be a great tour guide for you. Numbers down below. If you have any questions, reach out, give me a call, and I'll get you connected with Milton all over again. Thanks so much. Have a great day, my friend.
Thank you, buddy.